Well, summers have officially started here in the northern part of India, and that means only one thing, and that is to head up to the hills. And this time we've decided to borrow the Maruti Suzuki Celerio diesel for our drive, and we've decided to go all the way up to Naldehra. And why have we decided to take the Celerio diesel with us? Well, primarily because of two reasons. First of all, we wanted to save on cost because this car really does offer phenomenal fuel efficiency figures. And secondly, we wanted to find out if 47 bhp is enough for that highway trip. So let's get started now without wasting any time. Well, so we've begun our journey onto NH1, which of course is the old Grand Trunk Road. And if you are traveling in the middle of summer, then it's a good thing to start early morning. And that's largely because if you are traveling, after 10 a.m., then you will have to negotiate through a lot of traffic, because remember, right now we are in the middle of summer vacations for school kids, which means that a lot of parents take them out on those vacations to the hills. And what that essentially means is that the highways are really blocked with a lot of traffic at the moment. A lot of people think that 47 bhp isn't really enough for a car on the highway, but they could not be further away from the truth. Remember, this car also comes with 125 Nm of torque, and those are good figures considering it's only a 800cc engine and it's a very small capacity motor. Well, what that torque essentially does is it really does propel this car and help it to gather a lot of momentum quickly. And before you know it, this car does manage to touch 80 or 90 kph on Indian highways, which of course are legal speeds on most of the highways. So you have to be very careful with the accelerated times, because the mid-range of this engine is very strong, very punchy mid-range, and it really does propel this car to faster speeds in a very short span of time. It also managed to offer you a very, very comfortable ride, and it feels very stable and very reassuring even as speeds touch about 100 kph on the speedometer. It is a compact car and the wheelbase is also very small, and unlike a lot of other compact cars which tend to feel skittish on highways, this one feels reassuring as well as very stable. Well, Maruti claims 27 kpl plus for this diesel version of the car, which are very good figures. In fact, it means that this car is amongst the top 3 or 4 cars in India for sheer fuel efficiency. Well, talking about the negatives on this engine, the only negative is that when you start off from cold, it feels a little crude and a little loud inside the cabin. Well, but that's quite okay, because once it does manage to gather some heat after 2 or 3 kilometers, it becomes relatively calmer. And it's very similar to the Maruti Suzuki Swift diesel when you are on the highway. On the smooth and straight road, we are getting roughly about 24 odd kilometers to the litre. And what that really means is that this car is costing us about 2 rupees to travel per kilometer. These are very good figures considering that we have 2 people on board as well as their luggage. And what that means is that this car is a lot more cheaper to travel than by a Volvo bus. Well, most of our journey was in the summer heat on NH1 as well as on NH22, but things changed immediately as soon as we crossed the Himalayan Expressway. The climate really did become a lot more cooler, and we didn't need to use the AC for most of the remaining journey. Well, so we've just started climbing up the hills in the Celerio diesel, and we've just crossed the Himalayan Expressway toll. Well, this road is pretty broad and also very well paved. Well, driving up the hills is always a pleasure, and especially if you have a car which has an enthusiastic chassis. The Celerio isn't an outright driver's car, but even then it is pretty engaging to drive, because the steering wheel is pretty crisp and pretty responsive, and the clutch on the diesel is very light. In fact, it can shame a few petrol cars for its linear action as well as its smoothness. Also, the gearbox is pretty crisp and feels pretty similar to operate to the Maruti Suzuki Swift. Well, so do I think that 47 bhp is adequate for most needs? Well, to be honest, even 500 bhp is never enough. But that said, Maruti engineers have really tuned the engine on this car very well, and they've really given the gearbox very good ratios, and you don't really feel like this car is underpowered even on the highway. If you are traveling with 2 or 3 people on board and have a couple of big bags in the boot, and the AC is also turned on, the Celerio does feel pretty sprightly and does have enough pep to motor on without too much fuss. All you need to do, of course, is throw a gear down in case you need brisk acceleration, and this engine will pull you through. What also adds to the drivability of the Celerio is this gearbox, and Maruti engineers seem to have chosen the ratios very well. This is a car which has very minimal body roll, so if you are someone who enjoys pushing his car into corners, then the Celerio is a very fun car to drive around these hills. Also, because the chunky tires provide you lots of grip, it means that there's a lot of confidence every time you're pushing this car into that tight corner. Well, so overall, if you are someone who wants to save cash, then PPF, EPF or that ELSS mutual fund isn't the only way out. You can also save a lot of cash by buying yourself a Celerio diesel, because this car delivers over 27 kpl in terms of overall fuel efficiency figures, and what that means is that your motoring costs are well under control. Naldehra is at a distance of roughly about 400 kilometers from Delhi and is about 25 odd kilometers further away from Shimla. Naldehra is an absolute heavenly place for tourists, as it is away from the hustle bustle of Shimla, and if you want a peaceful and quiet time over here with your family, there are plenty of options to choose from. You can choose from the many HPTDC hotel properties here, which are not only inexpensive to stay in but also provide you good food as well as well-managed rooms. Naldehra boasts of a lot of flora and fauna, and it also has the oldest 9-hole golf course in the country. The golf course over here was suggested by Lord Curzon himself, and Lord Curzon was so enchanted by this place that he named his own daughter Alexandra Naldehra. You can also go to the famous Nag temple, from which this place derives its name from. Well, so I hope you have enjoyed watching this video, and do let us know what you think by writing in the comments section below. We've thoroughly enjoyed bringing it to you today, and of course, if you are someone who lives in Delhi or the NCR region, then this is the best time to head up to those hills.